What is going on, team? Welcome to another video, and today I want to walk you through my new training split, which is something I'm extremely excited to share with you a brief overview of now. A couple of months ago, I made the transition away from a little bit more of kind of a functional fitness approach into becoming a bit of a pseudo hybrid athlete. Basically, hybrid training is having a particular strength kind of goal and a particular endurance goal, like a powerlifting total and a triathlon or something. The difference between hybrid training and say CrossFit or functional fitness is that you have two slightly more kind of specific objectives, one in the strength domain, one in the endurance domain, and purely kind of for the purpose of physiological adaptation. Most of the time these are trained separately. What I have done, and this is kind of the big reveal from me today, is I've basically attempted to fuse my kind of proper power stuff, my athletic training stuff in there. And one of the reasons for this is I love feeling powerful, I love feeling quick, I love feeling bouncy, and I love feeling athletic. And I see a lot of people, especially in kind of the functional fitness world, that might be able to, clean big numbers and they're decent on a rower, but you actually watch the way that some of these people, again, this is not everyone by any means, but you watch the way that even some elite CrossFitters run, and they just don't really move particularly well. They can't really jump, they can't really throw. Some of their quicker kind of running modalities aren't great, and I think the foundational part of being athletic is kind of injecting some of this power up and stuff into the program. So I have basically coined the term hybrid power, which means that I have a strength, speed, and power focus, and I have an endurance focus. For me, I want to be able to kind of run a decent mile and run a decent 5K, so I'm not particularly worried about doing anything on the bike or in the water. It is purely running for me, so I want to be able to run distance and kind of hold my own in that regard and in that domain, but also be able to lift big, throw, jump, sprint, and be athletic in the kind of the foundations of human performance on that side. So today, prepare to learn what is hybrid power, whether or not doing power work is useful for you if you just kind of want to put on a bit of decent lean muscle mass, why I am a huge fan of putting strongman elements into this and have a good argument for that being far more functional than just barbell work on its own, how I balance running and lifting, and how I change the way I execute my weight training to ensure that I become powerful whilst not getting skinny and losing muscle. I'm gonna walk you through a very kind of rough, high-level overview of my 6-day split, what that looks like and what is in each section. My overarching goal is I wanna be jacked, tanned, and bouncy. The JTB program. Let's see if I can do it, and I reckon this 6-day split is definitely gonna be the best foundation I can have. I'm gonna give you guys a brief kind of high-level overview of my 6-day split in a second, but basically just kind of dangling a little bit of intellectual bait on a hook here. What I'm going to be describing to you today as a brief overview, and then subsequently in the next kind of 4, 5, 6 videos where I go into a lot more detail on each of these 6 particular sessions, is how hybrid power, which is my new system, is different from conventional hybrid training. Whether or not we do certain movements eccentrically loaded, as an example with a step up, one foot could hover just above a box, drive down into that box and then drive us up from there. So how many of the exercises should be eccentrically loaded? How many of these exercises and how frequently should we be doing particular movements that go along and basically move with our natural strength curve? This is where we start to introduce things like resistance bands and chains into particular movements, making the movement harder and harder and harder as we get closer to the top, which goes with our natural strength curve anyway, because we're stronger towards the top of the movement. And also the second benefit is it basically kind of teaches us to continue to accelerate through the movement, which is going to be incredibly helpful for things like jumps and throws. So how much of the natural strength curve stuff do we do? How often do we introduce things like pauses in some of the squat movements, and whether or not we should pause on a box or just pause in dead space? And if we are stronger at the top of the movement, how much training volume should we focus on specifically targeting that top end? As an example, if I'm in a place at the moment where I can squat arse to grass 190, but I can do 240, 250 in like a top, kind of top end Anderson squat, how much should I be focusing on that? And then if I do that, how much of the top end work should be partnered with making sure I do deliberate full range work to develop that strength, that depth? All of these questions are to be answered both today and again in the subsequent videos where I take a much deeper dive into that particular stuff. But taking a little bit of a breath and just letting all that science jargon kind of incept and be absorbed by our mind. Now let's look a little bit at the structure for this 6-day split. Kicking off the week then, guys, day 1, say it's a Monday, I'm gonna be doing my upper body strength day. Similar to kind of a West Side barbell conjugated approach, there is basically gonna be a main movement in there, a main compound lift. The main compound lift being usually on the ascending bar method, which is I'll aim for between kind of a, probably a 3 and 6 rep max, and basically just ascend the weight until I can no longer kind of put any more on, and then have probably 2 or 3 heavy working sets at that 3 to 6 rep max. I'll then have 1 to 2 supersets or giant sets. So that's kind of the functional bodybuilding section in the middle of the session. Rep range wise, we're kind of looking anywhere between 6 and 12 for this. I'm a huge fan of mirror work, so kind of a horizontal push or pull, vertical push or pull are really good places to start with this. And then some kind of pump finisher, whether or not that's just a little bit of kind of like functional core work, some counter movement work in the core, along with some biceps, triceps, and medial delt work as an example. Again, I'm going over this stuff super quick, guys. I'm going to be going into a hell of a lot more detail on what these are going to look like, and again, how the main compound lift at the beginning of the upper body session, as an example, is executed in a way that makes it powerful. So that's session 1 done of the upper body. Now let's move on to Tuesday, which is the second session, which is the lower body strength day. I've said this a lot on this channel before. For a lower body strength focus, or for a lower body kind of anything focus, whether or not it's strength or bodybuilding or kind of muscular endurance, there are only really 3 key movements that you need to ensure are in your sessions. One of them is a primary kind of compound movement, so a squat or deadlift variation. Squat, front squat, safety bar squat, trap bar deadlift, box squats, conventional deadlift, zerchers. So again, there are loads and loads and loads of different variations. And again, similar to the main compound in the upper body lift, ascending bar method between kind of 2 to 3 to 6 rep max. That's the first movement pattern we need to focus on. The second one is some kind of unilateral lift, so some kind of single leg variation, lunges, step ups, Bulgarian split squats, that kind of thing. And the third and final movement pattern we need in there is something that specifically targets hip extension. So whether or not it's a Romanian deadlift or a glute bridge. If you have a reverse hyper table, definitely flip and take advantage of that. So that's upper and lower strength sessions done. Again, in regards to how to make this slightly more power focused, I'll be going into much more detail on that on the subsequent videos, where I do one video specifically focusing on each one of these particular sessions. Day 3, this is where we start to introduce a little bit of endurance work in there now, and this is our tempo/threshold run day. Slightly more speed focused with kind of intervals or reps anywhere between 400 meters and a kilometer. Again, for me personally, I'm focusing on my run times for a mile and 5K, so I don't need to do reps of 2 miles and then do 10 of those. The mechanics and the speed and everything are going to be different. So I'd rather just kind of build in the mechanics and the speed relevant now that I know are going to carry over with a kind of hopefully an already existing kind of aerobic base. So reps of anywhere between 400 meters and a K, probably no more than 90 seconds to 2 minutes rest between intervals. And then basically there's loads and loads and loads of different ways that you can structure that. Again, we'll go into that more when we do a run focused video. Day 4, this is now where we start to kind of get into a little bit more individuality and where hybrid power is slightly different. This is a day where we're back in the gym and we have a session that is kind of split in 2. The first section is focused on strongman maxes. I'm a huge fan of this kind of stuff. So farmers walks, sled pushes, sled pulls, sandbag carries. If you've got a keg toss and you've got somebody to do that, that's awesome. Tire flips, that kind of thing. Super like primal flipping farmer strong, country strong kind of ways of training. This is the stuff that builds a level of robustness that is even better than the stuff you do with a barbell in a gym. That's the first half of the session that normally lasts anywhere between kind of 20 and 35 minutes. And then we move on to basically some kind of full body hypertrophy, full body bodybuilding set, where we just basically make sure that we get a pump on, bit of growth hormone release to assist everything we've done in the week before that. Day 5, back in the gym, and this is where we do a power specific session. This is really, there are elements of power, again I'll go into where, in the other gym sessions, but this is the one that is specifically focused on that. The only time that we really might focus on any barbell work is if we're doing something like a power clean. This is the thing that's gonna have plyometrics, it's gonna have complex and contrast weighted jumps. That's where, as an example, if you're doing, you do 5 reps of a box jump with a weight vest on, and then take the weight vest off, and then obviously your body's primed to jump even higher and further, as an example. Lots of slam ball work. Again, keg tosses here would be amazing. Anything that requires you to accelerate through the movement. This is where hybrid power and this particular process and this template really comes into its own, and I'm flipping buzzing to film that particular session and share that with you in the next couple of weeks. And day 6, we are back on the road for running now, and this is where we do our slightly longer steady state run. There is 2 different variations of this session. We can either do a purely steady state run where we go anywhere, I don't know, probably around about 5K or maybe a little bit longer to just build that aerobic base, or we do a couple of intervals, like possibly longer intervals, but only for the period of about 20 to 30 minutes at the beginning, and then finish off with anywhere between like a 3 and 5K run steady state at the end. That is an incredible amount of info, guys, so please feel free to kind of watch this a couple of times, but please do make sure that you like this video. I'm imploring you, if you are interested in this particular approach and you guys want to be flipping jacked and tanned and bouncy, and you want to be athletic as well as just being able to do, you know, single arm snatches, you want to be able to run, you want to be able to jump, you want to be able to turn your hand to any sport, speed and power are the foundations for that. So if you're interested in this particular kind of approach, then please, if you have not yet done so, make sure you subscribe. Put any questions you've got down in the comment section below. I make sure every single week that I have a certain time in my diary where I get back to each and every one of you. So by all means, please do ask a question. I'll respond to you personally. The biggest favor that you can do me is by sharing this video with someone just like you that you think is going to be as interested, a training partner, a buddy from the gym, someone that you think is also going to get value and kind of entertainment from this particular process. Make sure you subscribe, otherwise you're going to miss the subsequent 6 videos that are going to fill in the gaps on all of this stuff and how to make sure that you develop that level of athleticism while ensuring you stay endurance and aerobically fit, while ensuring that you stay jacked and shredded at the same time. As always, you bunch of flipping legends, stay strong, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I'll see you soon.